Have you ever noticed how life sometimes changes? Not when everything becomes perfect, but when everything becomes unbearable. Not because suffering is a gift, but because suffering finally breaks the illusion that we can keep living the same way. There is a moment many people know, a moment that feels like the end. You are tired. You have tried. You have prayed. You have waited. And still, the door does not open. In that moment, the mind whispers, "This is it. This is my limit." But what if that limit is not a wall? What if it is a turning point? Not a miracle from the sky, not a promise that everything will suddenly be easy, but a turning point inside you, where you stop fighting reality and begin to see clearly. When the heart is pushed to the edge, it becomes honest. When the ego is exhausted, it becomes quiet. When the mind can no longer pretend, it becomes ready. If you are listening right now while carrying heavy days, you are not alone. And you are not cursed. You are human. Tonight, in the spirit of the Buddha, we will explore a teaching many cultures express with a simple phrase. When something reaches an extreme, it tends to turn. When night is darkest, dawn is near. When the seed breaks, the sprout begins. But we will not treat this as fortune-telling. We will treat it as dharma, as impermanence, as cause and effect, as the middle way, as the wisdom of balance. Welcome, dear friends, to Buddha Peaceful Mind. If these reflections bring you calm or clarity, you are warmly invited to like the video and subscribe to Buddha Peaceful Mind. It is a quiet way to support the sharing of gentle Dharma, so more hearts can find a lamp in their difficult nights. Now let us begin with a very important correction. Many people hear a phrase like, "When things reach the extreme, they reverse," and they think it means life will always reward them soon. They think it means, if I suffer enough, the universe must give me happiness. They think it means, if I wait long enough, everything will flip like a coin. But the Buddha did not teach life as a vending machine. He did not teach that suffering automatically produces joy. He taught something deeper. He taught that all conditioned things change. He taught that everything arises due to causes and conditions. He taught that when causes change, results change. He taught that when we stop feeding suffering, suffering weakens. So the true turning point is not guaranteed by time. It is created by wisdom. When we understand this, the phrase becomes powerful and realistic. It does not mean, good luck is coming because you read these words. It means, a new life can begin when you create new causes. It means, your mind can turn when you stop pushing it into extremes. It means, the cycle can reverse when you stop feeding the same pattern. This is the Dharma way. Now let us look at the first image, the darkest night and the coming dawn. In nature, night becomes day because the earth turns. Not because night decides to be kind, not because the sky feels sorry for you, but because conditions move. In the same way, your life turns when inner conditions move. When your mind turns, when your actions turn, when your speech turns, when your habits turn, when your heart turns from clinging to understanding. This is why the Buddha's path is a path of practice, and practice begins with seeing things as they are. The Buddha called this right view. Right view is not optimism. Right view is not pessimism. Right view is clear seeing. Seeing that life includes joy and pain, seeing that everything changes, seeing that clinging creates suffering, seeing that kindness and wisdom create peace. Now, to make this teaching practical, let us hold 3 principles in our hands, like 3 small lamps. The first lamp is this: do not cling to perfect completeness. The second lamp is this: do not carry hatred. Let karma and wisdom do their work. The third lamp is this: do not be ashamed of poverty, and do not be intoxicated by wealth. Stay humble and balanced. These are not 3 rules to impress anyone. They are 3 ways to stop pushing life to extremes. And when we stop pushing, the heart becomes steady. And from steadiness, clarity appears. And from clarity, the path turns. Let us go slowly. The first principle is about not clinging to perfect completeness. Many people chase a feeling they call wholeness. A perfect family, a perfect relationship, a perfect body, a perfect career, a perfect reputation, a perfect spiritual image. At first, it looks beautiful. But when the mind becomes addicted to perfection, perfection becomes a trap. Because perfection is not a stable thing. It is a moving target. It changes every time you reach it. The Buddha taught impermanence. Everything changes. Everything that arises will pass. Even the most beautiful moment, even the strongest body, even the brightest success, even the sweetest love. This is not meant to make you sad. It is meant to make you free. Because when you accept impermanence, you stop demanding that life remain in one shape. You stop demanding that your relationship never change. You stop demanding that your body never age. You stop demanding that your mind never feel fear. You stop demanding that your happiness be permanent. And this is the beginning of peace. Now, long before the Buddha became the Buddha, he was a prince who had everything: luxury, comfort, protection, praise, pleasure. His world looked complete. But then he saw 3 sights that turned his mind. He saw sickness, he saw old age, he saw death. And he realized that his perfection was built on denial. No matter how rich you are, sickness can come. No matter how young you are, aging can come. No matter how powerful you are, death can come. So the prince left his palace, not because he hated life, but because he wanted truth. At first, he went to another extreme. He believed freedom meant punishing the body. He practiced harsh asceticism. He ate almost nothing. He pushed his body to the edge. He thought, if I destroy desire through pain, I will be free. But he found that the mind did not become clear. It became weak. It became foggy. It became desperate. Then he remembered a simple moment from childhood. A moment when he sat under a tree and felt natural peace. Not forced, not extreme, just calm. He realized the path is not in luxury and not in self-torture. The path is in balance. This is the middle way. And this middle way is the deepest meaning behind the idea of reversal at extremes. When we push life into extremes, the cost becomes too high. The body breaks, the mind breaks, the relationship breaks, the heart breaks. Then we are forced to turn, not because the universe is kind, but because the extreme is unsustainable. So the Buddha did not promise you a perfect life. He offered you a balanced life. A life with less suffering, because you stop feeding extremes. Now, let us make this personal. Where do you chase perfection? Where do you chase completeness? Maybe you chase the perfect image. You want everyone to approve. You want everyone to admire. You want no one to criticize. This is exhausting because you are building your life on other people's minds. Maybe you chase perfect control. You want your partner to behave exactly as you wish. You want your child to follow your plan. You want your parents to understand you completely. This is suffering because you are demanding permanence and control in a world of change. Maybe you chase perfect success. You want to be on top. You want to win. You want to never fail. But even the highest mountain meets the sky and becomes wind. Even the sharpest peak meets erosion. So the Buddha's question is not, how do I become perfect? The Buddha's question is, how do I become free? Freedom begins when you learn the art of enough. In Buddhism, contentment is a treasure, not because you stop growing, but because you stop starving. There is a difference between healthy effort and hungry clinging. Healthy effort says, I will practice, I will work, I will learn, I will improve. Hungry clinging says, I must have more, or I am nothing. I must be praised, or I am worthless. I must win, or I am a failure. One makes you strong, the other makes you sick. Now here is a story the Buddha used to teach balance. A monk named Sona was practicing very hard. He pushed himself. He forced long hours of walking meditation. He forced long hours of sitting. He wanted awakening quickly. But the more he forced, the more his mind became restless. His body became exhausted. He felt despair. He went to the Buddha and confessed, I am trying so hard, but my mind is not peaceful. The Buddha asked him, Sona, before you became a monk, did you play a stringed instrument? Sona said yes. The Buddha asked, what happens if the strings are too tight? Sona said, the sound is harsh and the strings may break. The Buddha asked, what happens if the strings are too loose? Sona said, the sound is dull and the music cannot be played. The Buddha said, in the same way, effort must be balanced. Not too tight, not too loose. Just right. This is the middle way in practice, not only in meditation, in life. If you push too hard, you break. If you give up completely, you sink. The path is balanced effort. Now, let us apply this to your life. If you are exhausted, maybe you have tightened your strings too much. You are demanding too much from yourself. You are demanding too much from life. You are demanding too much from others. The Buddha would say, loosen the strings, rest, breathe, simplify, return to the present. If you are lost in laziness and distraction, maybe your strings are too loose. The Buddha would say, tighten the strings gently, return to discipline, return to good habits, return to mindful effort. This is how life becomes stable. And when life becomes stable, you begin to see the turning points clearly. Now, there is another teaching connected to perfection, the teaching of cycles. Many traditions speak of cycles in nature, growth and decay, blooming and falling, rising and setting. In Buddhism, we also see cycles, arising, staying, changing, passing. Birth, aging, sickness, death. The Buddha did not teach that cycles are evil. He taught that cycles are reality. So the wise person does not cling to a single phase. When you are in a good phase, do not become arrogant. Do not become careless. Do not become intoxicated, because change is coming. When you are in a difficult phase, do not become hopeless. Do not become bitter. Do not become reckless, because change is also coming. But again, the deepest question is not whether change comes. It will. The question is whether you will suffer when it comes. Suffering increases when you cling. Suffering decreases when you understand. So the first principle is not, life must be perfect. It is, I will learn to live with change. Now this leads to a gentle practice you can do every day. When something good happens, say quietly in your heart, this is pleasant, and it will pass. When something painful happens, say quietly in your heart, this is unpleasant, and it will pass. This is not coldness, this is wisdom. It keeps your heart balanced. It prevents extremes. Now let us move to the second principle. No hatred, no obsession with revenge. Let karma and wisdom do their work. This principle is often misunderstood, so we must be careful. Some people hear about karma and think it means they should do nothing. They think, if someone harms me, I should be silent. They think, if someone cheats me, I should just accept. They think, if someone abuses me, I should endure. This is not what the Buddha taught. The Buddha taught compassion with wisdom. He taught non-hatred, not helplessness. He taught letting go, not allowing harm to continue. So we need a balanced understanding. In Buddhist language, hatred is a poison. It does not punish your enemy. It punishes you. The Buddha said that hatred is never ended by hatred. Hatred is ended by non-hatred. Non-hatred is not weakness. Non-hatred is clarity. It means you refuse to let your heart become a prison. You can protect yourself. You can set boundaries. You can speak firmly. You can leave harmful environments. You can seek justice through wise means. But you do it without the inner fire of hatred, without the obsession to destroy, because that obsession burns you first. Now, let us return to the theme of turning at extremes. Hatred pushes the mind to an extreme. It tightens the chest. It narrows the vision. It makes your world small. It makes you replay the same pain again and again. Eventually, hatred becomes unbearable. Then you are forced to turn. So the second principle is a turning point. It invites you to stop feeding the fire. How do we stop feeding hatred? We begin with understanding. The Buddha taught that human beings act from causes and conditions. Ignorance, fear, trauma, greed, delusion. This does not excuse harm, but it explains it. When you understand, the heart softens. And when the heart softens, hatred loses its food. Now here is a story that helps many people. A man came to the Buddha and insulted him. He spoke harshly. He wanted to provoke anger. The Buddha stayed calm. When the man finished, the Buddha asked him, if you offer food to a guest and the guest refuses to eat it, whose food remains? The man said, it remains with me. The Buddha said, in the same way, I do not accept your anger. It remains with you. This story is not about being passive. It is about not catching the burning gift. Many people catch the burning gift. They catch insult. They catch blame. They catch provocation. Then they burn, and they throw fire back. And now the world is on fire. The Buddha's practice is to not catch it. This is very hard, but it is possible. It begins with the breath. When you feel insult, feel the breath. When you feel rage, feel the breath. When you feel injustice, feel the breath. Then you choose your response from wisdom, not from fire. Now, another deep teaching on hatred is the second arrow. The first arrow is the pain someone causes you. The second arrow is the pain you add through resentment, obsession, and endless replay. You cannot always avoid the first arrow, but you can remove the second arrow. And when you remove the second arrow, life turns. Not because the person changes, because you change. Now, let us speak about karma carefully. Karma means action. Karma means intention. Karma means causes that produce results. When someone harms you, their actions have consequences, but the exact form and timing of consequences are complex. They depend on many conditions. So the Buddha did not encourage people to wish for others to suffer. He encouraged people to purify their own hearts. Because wishing for revenge keeps you tied to the person. It is like being chained to someone you hate. You think you are punishing them, but you are carrying them everywhere. So the second principle is freedom from this chain. Now here is a small story of freedom from hatred. A woman named Anya was betrayed by a friend. The friend spread lies, ruined her reputation, and took money. Anya was furious. She could not sleep. She replayed conversations. She imagined revenge. One day, she met an old practitioner. She said, "I cannot forgive. I want justice." The practitioner said, "Justice and hatred are not the same. You can protect yourself and still release hatred. Hatred is not required for strength." Anya did not understand at first, but she tried a small practice. Each time the revenge fantasy arose, she said, "This is my suffering, not my strength." She breathed and returned to her body. She took practical steps. She stopped trusting that friend. She warned others calmly with facts, not gossip. She protected her finances. She rebuilt her life. But she stopped feeding hatred. Slowly, her sleep returned. Slowly, her chest loosened. Slowly, her mind became free. The friend's life continued with its own consequences, but Anya no longer lived inside the friend's shadow. This is Dharma turning the wheel. Now, another story in the Buddha's life shows transformation beyond hatred. There was a man named Angulimala. He was a murderer. His mind was lost in darkness. People feared him. One day, the Buddha walked toward him with calm courage. Angulimala chased the Buddha, shouting, "Stop!" But the Buddha kept walking calmly. Angulimala was shocked. He said, "How can you keep walking when I am running and cannot catch you?" The Buddha said, "I have stopped. You have not stopped." He meant, "I have stopped hatred, greed, and delusion. You have not." That sentence pierced Angulimala's mind. He realized his life was an extreme of violence. And that extreme finally met a turning point. Angulimala became a monk. He practiced. He faced the consequences of his past. He was sometimes attacked by villagers. He did not retaliate. He accepted the pain as karma ripening. He continued to purify his mind. This story shows something important. When the mind reaches an extreme, it can still turn. Even a murderer can turn. So do not say, "I am too far gone." Do not say, "I cannot change." The mind can turn. But turning requires practice, not wishing. Now, the second principle also includes a subtle practice, seeing people as teachers. This does not mean you seek harm. It means when harm happens, you ask, what is this teaching me? Maybe it is teaching you to set boundaries. Maybe it is teaching you to trust your intuition. Maybe it is teaching you to stop people-pleasing. Maybe it is teaching you to stop clinging to approval. Maybe it is teaching you patience. Maybe it is teaching you to choose better friends. When you learn the lesson, the suffering loses meaning. And when suffering loses meaning, it loses power. Now we move to the third principle, poor without shame, rich without arrogance. This principle is deeply connected to balance. Poverty can push the mind to an extreme of inferiority. We think, I am less, I am not worthy, I do not deserve respect. We begin to hate ourselves. We begin to compare. We begin to shrink. We suffer not only from lack of money, but from lack of dignity. Wealth can push the mind to an extreme of arrogance. We think, I am above, I am special, I am superior. We become careless. We become intoxicated. We forget impermanence. We forget karma. We suffer not only from money, but from attachment to money. The Buddha taught that both extremes are traps. He did not worship poverty, and he did not worship wealth. He worshipped wisdom. He taught that a noble person is not noble because of money. A noble person is noble because of mind. Now, let us bring in a story from Buddhist tradition that touches this deeply. There is a story about offering lamps. In a great gathering, many wealthy people offered lamps to honor the Buddha. They brought large amounts of oil and many beautiful lamps. A very poor woman came. She had almost nothing, but she wanted to offer something. She used her last coins to buy a small amount of oil. She offered one small lamp with sincere faith. That night, a wind came and many lamps went out. But the poor woman's lamp stayed lit. People were surprised. The meaning of the story is not magic. The meaning is sincerity and purity of heart. A rich offering can be empty if the heart is proud. A small offering can be great if the heart is pure. The Buddha often praised intention over appearance. So the third principle teaches dignity. If you are poor, do not be ashamed. Practice virtue. Practice honesty. Practice effort. Practice generosity, even in small ways. Your mind can be rich. If you are wealthy, do not be intoxicated. Practice humility. Practice generosity. Practice responsibility. Remember impermanence. Your wealth is not you. Now, to bring this even closer, let us listen to another story. A merchant named Anathapindika was one of the Buddha's great supporters. He was wealthy and generous. He used his wealth to help others and support the Dharma. Later in life, he lost much of his wealth due to misfortune. He became ill. Many people would feel shame. Many people would become bitter. But Anathapindika continued his practice. He continued his generosity in the ways he could. He did not cling to his identity as a wealthy man. This is a key point. The Buddha's teaching is not be rich or be poor. It is do not cling. Clinging creates suffering. Releasing creates freedom. Now, how does this connect to turning points? When you are poor and ashamed, your mind becomes heavy. Heavy mind creates heavy decisions. Heavy decisions create more suffering. This is a downward spiral. But when you are poor and dignified, your mind becomes steady. Steady mind creates wise decisions. Wise decisions create better conditions. This is a turning. When you are rich and arrogant, your mind becomes careless. Careless mind creates reckless actions. Reckless actions create downfall. This is the reversal of arrogance. But when you are rich and humble, your mind becomes grounded. Grounded mind creates ethical action. Ethical action protects your life. This is balance. Now, we have touched the three principles. But to make this truly useful, we must go deeper. We must connect them to the Buddha's central teaching, the Four Noble Truths. The first truth is that there is suffering. In life, there is stress. There is disappointment. There is aging. There is loss. There is change. If you deny this, you suffer more. If you accept this, you can practice wisely. The second truth is that suffering has causes. One major cause is craving, the thirst that says, life must be exactly as I want. People must behave as I wish. The world must be fair by my standards. My image must be perfect. My success must be permanent. Another cause is aversion, the pushing away, the hatred, the resentment. Another cause is ignorance, not seeing impermanence, not seeing cause and effect, not seeing the nature of mind. When you understand the causes, you can change them. The third truth is that suffering can end, not by making the world perfect, but by ending the causes in the mind. The fourth truth is the path, ethical living, mindfulness, wisdom, compassion, the middle way. Now you may be thinking, this is beautiful, but my life is still heavy. How do I use this when I am in the darkest days? So now, let us speak directly to the person who feels they are at the bottom. When you are at the bottom, the mind often says two things. It says, this will last forever. And it says, I am alone. Both are illusions. Nothing lasts forever, and you are not alone. Many people have stood where you stand. Many people have felt what you feel. And many people have turned. Not because life gave them a reward, but because they created new causes. So let us talk about the turning process itself. How does reversal happen in the Dharma sense? It begins with a pause. When life becomes extreme, the usual strategies stop working. You cannot force. You cannot pretend. You cannot distract forever. So you pause. And in that pause, you finally see. You see that chasing perfection has exhausted you. You see that hatred has poisoned you. You see that shame has shrunk you. You see that pride has blinded you. Seeing is the beginning. In Buddhism, this is called awakening on a small scale, a moment of insight. And from that insight, you make one change. Not 10 changes, not a dramatic transformation overnight. One change. Maybe the change is you stop arguing with reality. You stop saying, this should not be happening. You accept, this is happening. Now what is the wise response? Maybe the change is you stop feeding resentment. You stop stalking the past. You stop replaying the wound. You breathe and return. Maybe the change is you stop chasing perfection. You choose one small act of balance. Maybe the change is you stop comparing. You choose dignity. One change creates new conditions. New conditions create new results. This is how life turns. Now, let us explore the first principle again, but deeper. Do not cling to perfect completeness. In Buddhism, clinging is called upadana. It is the hand that grabs life and refuses to let go. We cling to pleasure. We cling to identity. We cling to views. We cling to rituals. We cling to relationships. We cling even to suffering, because suffering feels familiar. So the Buddha asked us to practice letting go. Not letting go of love, letting go of ownership, not letting go of responsibility, letting go of obsession, not letting go of effort, letting go of greed. Now here is a small everyday story. A man named Kiet worked for years to build a perfect life, a perfect home, a perfect job, a perfect image. He controlled everything. He planned everything. Then one day, a small, unexpected event happened. A project failed. A friend criticized him. A family member got sick. Suddenly, Kiet's perfect life felt fragile. He became anxious. He became angry. He realized he was not living. He was managing fear. He started practicing mindfulness. At first, it was just 5 minutes a day. He watched his breath. He noticed his craving for control. Slowly, he learned to accept uncertainty. He learned to say, "I can do my best, and I cannot control everything." His life did not become perfect, but his heart became free. This is the paradox. When you stop clinging to perfection, you become more peaceful. And from peace, you become more skillful. Now, to practice the middle way, the Buddha offered many simple habits. Moderation in eating, moderation in speech, moderation in work, moderation in rest. Not because pleasure is evil, but because extremes create suffering. Now, let us speak about the phrase, leave something for others, leave something for tomorrow. This is a wise, worldly teaching, and it also fits the Buddhist principle of non-greed. If you try to take all profit, you create enemies. If you try to take all credit, you create resentment. If you try to enjoy all pleasure, you create exhaustion. If you try to control all outcomes, you create anxiety. The balanced person leaves space. Space for others to breathe. Space for tomorrow to unfold. Space for the heart to rest. This is not weakness. This is intelligence. Now the second principle again, no hatred. Hatred is often fed by a belief. The belief that pain must be answered with pain. But the Buddha taught that pain answered with pain creates more pain. So what is the wise answer? The wise answer is to protect yourself and purify your heart. This is why the Buddha's path includes both ethics and wisdom. Ethics means you do not harm. Wisdom means you do not hate. Together, they create freedom. Now let us make this practical with a guided practice you can use when resentment rises. When resentment rises, do not immediately fight it. Do not immediately judge yourself for it. Resentment is a natural response to hurt. Instead, do 3 things. First, name it. This is resentment. Second, locate it. Where is it in the body? In the chest? In the throat? In the stomach? Third, soften. Breathe into that place. Say quietly, "This is pain." I do not have to add a second arrow. Then, if you need to take action, Take action from calm, not from fire. This is how you keep dignity and peace. Now, the third principle again, poverty and wealth. This principle is not only about money, it is about any condition. Beauty, fame, education, power, health. If you have it, do not be arrogant. If you do not have it, do not be ashamed. Everything is impermanent. Everything is borrowed. Everything can change. So the wise person uses conditions without becoming them. Now there is a Buddha story about humility. A king once came to the Buddha, proud of his power. He asked questions to test the Buddha. The Buddha answered calmly, without fear and without flattery. The king felt the Buddha's stability. He realized that true power is not in controlling others. True power is in mastering the mind. The king bowed. This is the reversal of arrogance. Arrogance meets wisdom and turns into humility. Now, we will take a long pause in the form of a gentle reflection. You can listen and allow these words to sink in. Think of one area of your life where you are at an extreme. Maybe it is extreme worry. Maybe it is extreme fatigue. Maybe it is extreme ambition. Maybe it is extreme resentment. Maybe it is extreme shame. Now, ask yourself, what is the cost of this extreme? What is it doing to your body? What is it doing to your sleep? What is it doing to your relationships? What is it doing to your mind? Now ask, what would balance look like? Balance may not be a perfect solution. Balance may be a small shift. More rest, less comparison, less arguing, more breathing, more honesty, more boundaries, more gratitude. Choose one small shift. That is your turning point. Now, to make this talk long enough for a deep practice, we will explore many turning points. Turning point in suffering. Turning point in success. Turning point in conflict. Turning point in loss. Turning point in fear. Because the phrase about reversal is not only for people in pain, it is also for people in comfort. Sometimes the extreme is happiness that becomes intoxication. Sometimes the extreme is success that becomes arrogance. Sometimes the extreme is pleasure that becomes addiction. And then reversal comes as suffering. So the Dharma teaches balance in all seasons. Now, let us talk about Bi Guk Tai Lai, the idea that after hardship, ease can come. In Buddhism, we interpret this as the natural movement of conditions. Hardship is not eternal. Ease is not eternal. So if you are in hardship, do not despair. If you are in ease, do not become careless. This is the wisdom of impermanence. Now here is a story of a man who forgot this. A man became successful quickly. He earned money. He became famous. He was praised. He began to believe he was protected. He began to believe he deserved more than others. He began to treat people as tools. Then one day, a crisis came. A scandal. A failure, a betrayal. His friends disappeared. His supporters left. His mind collapsed. He said, "Why is life unfair?" But life was not punishing him. Life was showing him impermanence. If he had practiced humility, he would have had inner stability. But he clung to praise. So when praise ended, he fell. This is why the Buddha taught that real refuge is not in external conditions. It is in the mind, trained by Dharma. Now, for the rest of this talk, we will cultivate a refuge that stays when conditions change. The Buddha taught the three refuges: refuge in the Buddha, the awakened quality; refuge in the Dharma, the path of truth; refuge in the Sangha, the community of practice. Even if you are alone in your room, you can take refuge, because refuge is also inner. Refuge in mindfulness, refuge in compassion, refuge in wise effort. Now we will take the first rule again and connect it to a common modern problem: the addiction to being complete. People scroll social media and see perfect lives, perfect couples, perfect bodies, perfect success. They compare. They feel incomplete. They chase. This chase becomes an extreme, and it leads to suffering. The Buddha's antidote is simple: contentment and gratitude. Gratitude does not mean you stop improving. Gratitude means you stop insulting your present life. So practice gratitude daily. Notice one thing you have: breath, health, a friend, a meal, a safe bed, a chance to learn. When gratitude grows, craving weakens. And when craving weakens, peace grows. This is reversal. Now the second rule again: no hatred in modern life. Many people live in a constant war with others. They carry political anger. They carry family anger. They carry relationship anger. They believe hatred is justice, but hatred is not justice. Hatred is suffering. Justice can be pursued with clarity. Justice can be pursued with boundaries. Justice can be pursued with wise action. Hatred is not required. So if you want to be a strong person, train to act without hatred. This is the Buddha's strength. Now, the third rule again: wealth and poverty in modern life. Many people feel ashamed because they are not rich yet. They feel small. They hide. They avoid opportunities. But shame is not humility. Shame is self-hatred. The Buddha did not teach self-hatred. He taught dignity. Dignity means you respect yourself through virtue. Even if you have little money, you can have honest speech. You can have kind actions. You can have discipline. You can have learning. These build real value. Now let us pause again and offer a small practice you can do for 7 days. We will not count days as a strict rule, but as a gentle invitation. Each morning, set an intention. May I live with balance today. May I not push to extremes. May I respond with wisdom. Each evening, review your day. Where did I push too hard? Where did I cling? Where did I hate? Where did I compare? Where did I feel shame or pride? Then choose one correction for tomorrow. This daily practice changes karma. Not dramatic, but steady. Now, we need to go deeper into the heart of reversal. We must speak about patience. When people say, things will turn, they often want it now. They want immediate relief. But the Buddha taught patience, khanti, patient endurance, not passive suffering, wise endurance. Patience is the ability to stay steady while conditions ripen. A seed does not become a tree in one night. A wound does not heal in one breath. A mind does not become peaceful in 1 hour. So practice patience with yourself. You may be at a turning point, but turning takes time. Turning takes consistent, small steps. Now, let us tell a story about a bamboo forest. Bamboo grows in a strange way. For a long time, you see nothing above the ground. But under the soil, roots are growing. Then one day, bamboo shoots rise quickly. Many people only see the fast growth and think it was sudden, but it was prepared silently. In the same way, your turning point may be growing underground. Your discipline, your patience, your prayers, your effort, your tears, your learning. Then one day, a door opens. A new job, a new relationship, a new understanding, a new peace. It looks sudden, but it was prepared. So do not despise small practice. Small practice is roots. Now there is another danger in the idea of reversal. It can make people passive. They wait for life to flip. They do nothing. The Buddha did not teach waiting. He taught effort. Right effort. Effort to prevent unwholesome states. Effort to abandon unwholesome states. Effort to cultivate wholesome states. Effort to maintain wholesome states. This is practice. So while you trust that conditions change, you also create change. This is balance between trust and action. Now, we will add another story that shows this. A man was drowning in debt. He kept saying, "It will turn soon." He waited. Nothing changed. Then he met a friend who practiced Dharma. The friend said, "Hope without action is just dreaming. Turn your mind, then turn your life." The man began small. He stopped unnecessary spending. He worked extra hours. He learned new skills. He asked for help without shame. He practiced contentment. He practiced gratitude. He practiced honesty. Debt did not vanish overnight, but gradually, life turned. The turning was not fate. It was causes. This is Dharma. Now, let us place a second subtle invitation for support, since you are spending this long time in practice. If you find peace in these teachings, you are welcome to subscribe to Buddha Peaceful Mind. Your quiet support helps this channel continue offering long, gentle Dharma talks for those who need them. Now, we will begin a deeper exploration of the first rule again, because it is the root of many extremes. Not clinging to perfect completeness also means not clinging to being fully right. Not clinging to winning. Not clinging to always feeling good. Many people suffer because they think they must always feel good. When pain comes, they panic. They judge themselves. They think something is wrong. But pain is part of life. The Buddha did not promise constant happiness. He promised freedom from unnecessary suffering. So when pain comes, you can meet it with mindfulness. This itself is a turning. Now let us speak about the middle way again, but in emotional life. When someone hurts you, the extremes are hatred and revenge, or denial and suppression. The middle way is feeling the pain honestly and responding wisely. When you fail, the extremes are self-hatred or irresponsibility. The middle way is remorse without shame and correction. When you succeed, the extremes are arrogance or fear of losing. The middle way is gratitude and humility. This is balance. Now, to help you practice, let us offer a simple phrase for each extreme. When you want perfection, say, "Enough is a treasure." When you want revenge, say, "I will not carry fire." When you feel shame, say, "Dignity is in virtue." When you feel arrogance, say, "Everything changes." These phrases are small, but they can turn the mind in 1 second. Now, let us go deeper into the second rule and talk about compassion. Non-hatred is not only a personal practice, it is compassion. Compassion means you see suffering. You see that people who harm often have harmed minds. They may be confused, they may be wounded, they may be greedy, they may be lost. Again, this does not excuse harm, but it prevents hatred. It prevents you from becoming what you hate. Now, there is a story in Buddhism about a saw. A harsh story, but with a gentle meaning. The Buddha said that even if bandits were to cut your limbs with a saw, you should not give rise to hatred. This is not a command to allow abuse. It is a teaching about the mind. It shows how powerful the practice of non-hatred can be. But for most of us, we do not face saws. We face rude words. We face betrayal. We face unfair treatment. So practice non-hatred in daily life. This is already heroic. Now let us talk about the third rule again and connect it to generosity. Generosity is the great equalizer. A poor person can be generous. A rich person can be stingy. Generosity is not the amount, it is the heart. A smile, a kind word, a helpful act, a small donation, a listening ear. When you practice generosity, your mind becomes expansive. Expansion raises the quality of your life. So if you feel stuck, give something, not because you are rich, but because you want to break the cage. Now, we will turn this talk into a long, guided Dharma journey by exploring the 5 common extremes that create suffering. Extreme attachment to outcomes. Extreme attachment to identity. Extreme attachment to control. Extreme attachment to pleasure. Extreme attachment to blame. And we will show how each can reverse through Dharma. First, extreme attachment to outcomes. Outcome attachment says, if I do not get what I want, I cannot be okay. This creates anxiety. The Buddha taught to focus on effort, not outcome. You plant good causes, then you let results arise. This is surrender without passivity. Now, a story. A farmer planted seeds and pulled the sprouts every day to make them grow faster. He thought he was helping, but he killed the sprouts. This story is known in many traditions, and it fits the Buddha's teaching. When you force outcomes, you destroy growth. So practice patience. Do your part, then let life unfold. Second, extreme attachment to identity. Identity attachment says, I must be seen in a certain way. I must be the successful one. I must be the good one. I must be the spiritual one. Then every criticism becomes a wound. Every failure becomes a collapse. The Buddha taught non-self. Not that you do not exist, but that identity is not fixed. It changes. It is not worth clinging to. So loosen identity. Become a learner, a human practicing. This creates freedom. Third, extreme attachment to control. Control attachment says, people must behave as I want. Life must follow my plan. This creates anger. The Buddha taught to understand conditions, to act wisely, but not demand. You control your intention. You cannot control all results. So practice control of the mind, not control of the world. Fourth, extreme attachment to pleasure. Pleasure attachment says, I must feel good all the time. I must avoid discomfort. This creates addiction. The Buddha taught moderation. He taught sense restraint, not because pleasure is evil, but because addiction is suffering. So enjoy with mindfulness, then let go. Fifth, extreme attachment to blame. Blame attachment says, my suffering is because of them. My life is ruined because of them. This creates helplessness. The Buddha taught responsibility, not self-blame, but power. Ask, what can I do now? What is my next wise step? This creates reversal, because responsibility creates action. Now let us go deeper into one of the most important turning points, the turning point from bitterness to wisdom. Bitterness is the taste of unhealed pain. When people become bitter, they often think they are being realistic. But bitterness is not realism. Bitterness is a wound. Wisdom is different. Wisdom sees pain, but it does not become poison. Wisdom sees injustice, but it does not become hatred. Wisdom sees impermanence, but it does not become despair. Wisdom is a clear mind. So how do we turn bitterness into wisdom? We begin with compassion for ourselves. We say, I am bitter because I was hurt. This is human. Then we practice releasing. We practice breathing. We practice seeing the causes. We also practice learning. We ask, what did this teach me? This turns bitterness into growth. Now let us offer a story. A man was fired unfairly. He was angry and bitter. He said, my life is destroyed. He spent months complaining and blaming. He became depressed. One day, a friend said, this pain is not the end. It may be a doorway. The man did not believe it, but he was tired of bitterness. He began to learn a new skill. Slowly, he found a new job, a better environment, a healthier life. Years later, he said, being fired was painful, but it pushed me to turn. If it had not happened, I would have stayed stuck. This is not romanticizing suffering. It is recognizing that suffering can be used as fuel for wisdom. This is Dharma. Now, let us speak about the phrase, the ground cracks and the seed grows. In Buddhism, this is impermanence. Old forms break, new forms arise. Sometimes your identity breaks, sometimes your relationship breaks, sometimes your plans break. It hurts, but if you meet it with wisdom, something new can arise. A new maturity, a new freedom, a new clarity. Now we will take a deeper turn and speak about one more important teaching, equanimity. Equanimity is balance. It is the mind that stays steady in pleasure and pain. Equanimity is not indifference, it is stability. When you have equanimity, you do not panic in hardship. You do not become intoxicated in success. This is the perfect state for navigating cycles. So practice equanimity. A simple way is to repeat this truth. All things change, all things pass. I will do my best, and I will not cling. Now, because this talk is meant for a long video, we will add a longer guided contemplation on balance. Listen gently. Bring to mind the image of a wheel. A wheel turns, up and down, up and down. Now see your life as a wheel. There were times you were up. There were times you were down. When you were up, what did you learn? When you were down, what did you learn? Now notice that you survived every down so far. You are here. So do not underestimate your strength. Now ask, what would it mean to live with the wheel, not against it? It would mean you stop taking every change personally. It would mean you stop saying, I am cursed. It would mean you stop clinging to one phase. You become like a traveler who understands seasons. In winter, you wear warm clothes. In summer, you drink water. You do not curse winter. You do not worship summer. You adapt. This is wisdom. Now we will return to the 3 principles and translate them into 3 daily questions you can ask. First question: am I demanding perfection right now? Second question: am I feeding hatred right now? Third question: am I shrinking in shame or inflating in pride right now? If you can notice these, you can turn. Now, let us offer more stories to keep this journey alive and human. Story of the pot that cracked. A water carrier had 2 pots. One pot was perfect. The other had a crack. The cracked pot leaked water and felt ashamed. It apologized to the carrier, saying it was useless. The carrier smiled and said, "Do you see the flowers on the path? I planted seeds on your side because I knew you would leak. Your imperfection watered them." This story is not from the Buddhist texts, but it carries a Buddhist spirit. Imperfection is not always failure. Sometimes imperfection becomes function. So do not cling to perfect completeness. Your cracks may water someone's flowers. Now, story of the river. A river does not fight stones. It flows around them. It keeps moving. It reaches the ocean. In the same way, the Buddha taught skillful means, not stubbornness, not force. Wisdom. When life blocks you, do not break yourself against it. Flow. Adapt. Keep moving. This is the middle way. Now, story of a monk and a broken cup. A monk had a cup he loved. He said, "This cup is already broken," meaning it can break at any time. Because he held this view, when it broke, he did not collapse. He was sad, but not destroyed. This is impermanence as freedom. If you hold your life with this wisdom, you suffer less. You love more freely. You cling less. Now, we will speak about the idea that the best state is not fullness, but harmony. Harmony is not having everything. Harmony is having enough and being at peace. Harmony means your heart and life are aligned. You may have little money, but your conscience is clean. You may have a simple job, but your mind is calm. You may have few friends, but your relationships are honest. This is harmony. Now, the Buddha taught that true happiness is contentment and virtue. A person with few desires is rich. A person with many desires is poor, even if they have money. So ask, are my desires making me rich or poor? Now, let us add a more formal Dharma teaching for those who want depth. The Buddha spoke about the 8 worldly winds: gain and loss, praise and blame, fame and disrepute, pleasure and pain. These winds blow for everyone. No one escapes. Even saints are praised and blamed. So the practice is not to stop the winds. The practice is to not be blown away. When you cling to gain, loss destroys you. When you cling to praise, blame destroys you. When you cling to fame, disrepute destroys you. When you cling to pleasure, pain destroys you. So practice balance. This is another way of understanding reversal. If you cling, reversal hurts. If you do not cling, reversal is just change. Now let us tell a story about worldly winds. A man received praise and became arrogant. Then he received blame and became depressed. His mind was like a leaf in the wind. He met a wise person who said, "Do not let praise intoxicate you. Do not let blame destroy you. Use both as information, not identity." The man practiced. Slowly, he became stable. This stability is true strength. Now, we will move into a longer section on practical living. How do we keep balance in daily life? We will speak about boundaries, discipline, and softness. Balance is not only philosophy. Balance is habits. If you sleep too little, the mind becomes extreme. If you eat too much, the body becomes heavy. If you work too much, the heart becomes dry. If you rest too much, the life becomes stagnant. So practice rhythm. Wake and sleep with care. Eat with moderation. Work with mindfulness. Rest with guilt-free presence. This is Dharma as lifestyle. Now, let us talk about the rule of leaving room again. Leaving room is also about your schedule. Do not fill every hour. Leave room for silence. Leave room for breathing. Leave room for reflection. A life with no space becomes a prison. Now, let us connect this to the idea that the turning point is often close when you are exhausted. Many people reach the bottom because they have been pushing too hard for too long. They have ignored their body. They have ignored their heart. They have ignored their limits. So the bottom becomes the teacher. It forces them to rest. It forces them to change. So if you are exhausted, listen. This may be your teacher. Not to romanticize it, to learn from it. Now we will add one more deep story of reversal. The story of the Buddha and the hungry ghost. In Buddhist teachings, there is the image of hungry ghosts, beings with huge stomachs and tiny throats. They are always hungry, always thirsty, never satisfied. This is a symbol of craving. Many people live like hungry ghosts. They have enough, but they feel empty. They receive love, but they demand more. They achieve success, but they fear losing it. The Buddha's path is to heal the hungry ghost inside. How? Through contentment, through gratitude, through letting go, through generosity. When you heal craving, life turns. Now, let us offer a practice to heal craving. When you want more, pause. Ask, do I need this, or do I want this to fill an inner emptiness? Then breathe. Then choose wisely. Sometimes you do need more. More rest, more support, more learning. But often, you want more to escape discomfort. And escape creates suffering. So practice seeing. Now, We will return again to the second rule and talk about inner peace. Inner peace is not a luxury. It is a foundation. Without inner peace, every reversal feels like disaster. With inner peace, reversals become manageable. So cultivate inner peace. The Buddha taught breath meditation as a simple way. Feel the inhale, feel the exhale. Return. When the mind wanders, return. This return is the practice of turning. Every return is a turning point. Now, to fill the length of this Dharma talk with meaningful practice, we will do several guided returns. First return. Return from the future to the present. Many people suffer because their mind lives in the future. What if it fails? What if I lose? What if I never recover? The future is not here. Only now is here. So return to now. Feel your breath. Feel your body. Notice the room. Notice the sounds. Now you are back. Second return. Return from the past to the present. Many people suffer because their mind lives in the past. They replay. They regret. They resent. The past is gone. Only now is here. So return. Third return. Return from judgment to compassion. Many people judge themselves harshly. They say, I am weak, I am late, I am behind. But judgment is not wisdom. Compassion is wisdom. So return to compassion. Say, I am human. I am learning. I can take one step. This is turning. Now we will explore more deeply the meaning of being at the bottom. In Buddhist teaching, rock bottom can be a doorway because it breaks delusion. Delusion is the belief that you can control everything. Delusion is the belief that comfort will last forever. Delusion is the belief that pride is safety. When life breaks you, delusion cracks. Then wisdom enters. This is why many people become spiritual after suffering. Not because suffering is holy, because suffering is honest. Now, to keep the talk alive, let us tell a modern story. A woman named Dara spent years trying to please everyone. Her family, her boss, her friends. She said yes to everything. She became exhausted. Her health collapsed. She felt angry. She said, I am a good person. Why am I suffering? In therapy and mindfulness, she realized something. Her goodness was mixed with fear. Fear of rejection. Fear of conflict. Fear of being alone. Her yes was not always love. Sometimes it was self-abandonment. This realization was her turning point. She began to practice boundaries. She began to say no gently. She began to rest. She began to care for her body. Her life became simpler, but more peaceful. This is reversal, not fate, wisdom. Now, let us connect this to the first rule. Do not cling to perfect completeness. Dara wanted to be complete in everyone's eyes. She wanted perfect approval. That was her extreme. When she released it, her life turned. Now we will speak about another common extreme, the extreme of spiritual pride. Some people learn a little Dharma and become proud. They judge others. They feel superior. This is an extreme. The Buddha warned against pride, even spiritual pride. So practice humility. The Dharma is not a tool to look down on others. It is a mirror to purify yourself. So keep the teaching inward. Now we will add another story. A monk once said, "I am more spiritual than others." His teacher asked, "When you say that, is your mind peaceful?" The monk felt shame. The teacher said, "The moment you feel above, you fall below, because pride is suffering." The monk learned humility. His mind became lighter. This is reversal of pride. Now let us move to a deeper reflection on the 3 rules and how they form one teaching. The first rule is about impermanence. The second rule is about karma and compassion. The third rule is about humility and contentment. Together, they form the middle way. The middle way is living in balance with reality, not clinging to fullness, not clinging to hatred, not clinging to status. This is liberation. Now, we will make the talk more practical with a long section on how to apply these rules in 3 major areas: relationships, work, and self. First, relationships. Relationships often reach extremes. Too much control, too much distance, too much expectation, too much resentment. The turning point comes when you stop demanding that the other person fill your emptiness. When you stop using love as control. When you stop using anger as communication. The Buddha taught loving kindness and right speech. Speak truth with gentleness. Listen with patience. Set boundaries with respect. When relationships reach an extreme of conflict, the turning often begins with one apology, one honest conversation, one change in tone, one breath before speaking. Now, a story. A couple argued for years. They always tried to win. Their home became cold. One day, one partner said, "I do not want to win. I want to understand." That sentence changed everything. The arguments did not vanish overnight, but the tone changed. The heart softened. The path turned. This is Dharma in love. Second, work. Work can reach extremes: burnout, greed, competition, fear. The turning point comes when you practice balance. Work with effort, but rest. Aim for success, but keep ethics. Improve, but do not define yourself by outcomes. The Buddha taught right livelihood, work that does not harm, work that supports a clean conscience. When you work ethically, your mind is lighter, and the light mind sees opportunities more clearly. Third, self. Self can reach extremes: self-hatred, self-obsession, shame, pride. The turning point comes when you practice self-compassion and humility. You stop talking to yourself like an enemy. You stop building identity on praise. You become a learner. You become a practitioner. Now we will offer a simple daily inner practice. When you wake up, place a hand on the chest and say, "May I live with balance today. May I not cling. May I not hate. May I be humble. May I be patient." This is a simple prayer, but it plants a cause. Now, since we are aiming for a long 99-minute talk, we will take a deeper journey into each principle with more stories and contemplations. We begin again with the first principle, not clinging to completeness, and we will explore it through the lens of the 4 immeasurables. Loving kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy, equanimity. Why do these matter? Because when you chase perfection, your heart becomes narrow. But when you cultivate these qualities, your heart becomes wide. And a wide heart is less shaken by change. Loving kindness means wishing well, without demanding. Compassion means caring about suffering, without hatred. Sympathetic joy means celebrating others, without envy. Equanimity means balance, without indifference. These are antidotes to extremes. Now let us speak about sympathetic joy, because envy is a common extreme. Envy says, "Their success makes me less." Envy creates bitterness. Envy poisons speech. Envy poisons relationships. Sympathetic joy says, "Their happiness is not my loss. I can rejoice. I can learn. I can grow." When you practice sympathetic joy, your heart turns from scarcity to abundance. This is reversal. Now, a small story. Two friends started businesses. One succeeded quickly. The other struggled. The struggling friend became jealous. He avoided the successful friend. He criticized him behind his back. One day, he realized his jealousy was suffering. It was not helping him. It was poisoning his life. He decided to practice joy. He congratulated his friend sincerely. He asked for advice humbly. He learned. His bitterness decreased. His learning increased. His life turned. This is a turning from envy to wisdom. Now let us speak about equanimity again. Equanimity is the ability to stand steady when the wheel turns. If you train equanimity, you do not fear reversal, because you know how to meet change. Now let us offer a longer equanimity contemplation. Imagine receiving praise. Feel the sweetness. Now say quietly, "This is pleasant and it will pass." Imagine receiving blame. Feel the sting. Now say quietly, "This is unpleasant and it will pass." Imagine receiving money. Feel relief. Now say, "This is conditioned and it will pass." Imagine losing money. Feel fear. Now say, "This is conditioned and it will pass." This practice does not remove emotion. It removes clinging. Now, let us return to the second principle again. No hatred, and explore it through forgiveness and boundaries. Forgiveness is releasing the poison. Boundaries are protecting the body and mind. Many people confuse them. They think if you forgive, you must stay. Not true. You can forgive and still leave. You can forgive and still set distance. You can forgive and still say no. The Buddha's path is wise compassion. Now, a story. A woman forgave her father for years of harsh speech, but she also limited contact. She visited when she had strength. She ended conversations when insults began. She did not argue. She did not hate. She protected herself. Over time, her father's behavior softened a little. Not because she forced him, because her calm boundaries changed conditions. This is skillful. Now, let us return to the third principle again, wealth and poverty, and explore it through the practice of generosity and humility. In Buddhism, generosity is the first perfection, because it breaks attachment. Attachment is a form of extreme. Generosity reverses it. Now, let us tell a story. A wealthy man wanted to be respected. He donated money publicly, but he felt empty. He still felt anxious. He still feared losing wealth. He met a monk who said, "Give quietly. Give without wanting applause. Give to reduce attachment. The man tried. He began giving anonymously. He began helping without announcing. He felt lighter. He realized his old giving was mixed with pride. His new giving was mixed with freedom. This is the reversal from ego to merit. Now, let us speak about one more turning point, the turning point from chaos to discipline. Many people want life to turn, but they keep chaotic habits. They sleep late. They eat poorly. They scroll endlessly. They speak without mindfulness. They waste time. They avoid responsibility. Then they wonder why life does not change. The Buddha taught discipline as compassion. Discipline is not punishment. Discipline is love for your future self. So if you want your life to turn, start with one discipline. Sleep earlier. Stop one toxic habit. Practice one meditation. Read one page of Dharma. Do one act of kindness. One discipline creates new conditions. New conditions create new results. This is turning. Now we will add a story about discipline. A man wanted peace but had no discipline. He meditated once and quit. He read one teaching and forgot. He complained. A teacher said, "The mind is trained like a muscle. One exercise does not build strength." So he chose one small discipline, 10 minutes of breathing daily, no matter what. After months, his mind became steadier. His reactions softened. His life improved. This is simple, but it is Dharma. Now, let us speak about the last lines of your theme. Only awareness stays with you at the end of the road. This is very Buddhist. In the end, wealth does not follow you. Fame does not follow you. Control does not follow you. Only your mind follows you. Only your karma follows you. Only your awareness follows you. So if you invest in awareness, you invest in the only thing that stays. This is why the Buddha taught mindfulness again and again. Now, because we are approaching the final third of this long talk, let us add a deep, guided practice on mindful walking through hardship. If you are in hardship, do not rush. Do not panic. Walk slowly. Each day, do 3 things. First, protect your mind. Stop feeding fear. Reduce toxic inputs. Reduce arguing. Reduce doom scrolling. Second, protect your body. Sleep. Eat simply. Move. Drink water. Third, plant one good seed. One kind act. One honest action. One moment of meditation. One act of learning. These 3 are small, but they are powerful. They create new conditions. They begin the turning. Now, let us tell a story about planting seeds. A woman was depressed. She said, "Nothing helps." A teacher asked her to do one act of kindness each day. Small, helping a neighbor, sending a kind message, feeding an animal, cleaning a space. At first, she resisted, but she tried. After weeks, she noticed her mind was lighter, not because her problems vanished, because her heart expanded. This is the turning power of goodness. Now we will speak about the deepest part of the teaching of reversal, the teaching of emptiness. Emptiness in Buddhism does not mean nothing exists. It means things do not exist independently. They exist through conditions. Your suffering is not a permanent self. Your depression is not your identity. Your failure is not your essence. They are conditions. They arise. They pass. When you understand emptiness, You stop taking every phase as final. You stop saying, "This is who I am." You say, "This is what is happening." And what is happening can change. This is liberation. Now, let us close slowly, but with depth. If you are in the darkest days, do not rush to believe a promise. Instead, trust a practice. Trust impermanence. Trust causes and conditions. Trust the middle way. Trust small steps. Trust the breath. Trust kindness. Trust discipline. Trust patience. Your life may be at an extreme, and extremes are unstable. So yes, a turning is possible. But the turning is not a lottery prize. It is a path you walk with awareness. If this talk has supported you, you are welcome to like the video and subscribe to Buddha Peaceful Mind. It helps keep these long Dharma reflections available for anyone who needs a calm lamp in the night. May you live with balance. May you be free from extremes. May your heart release hatred. May your dignity be steady in poverty and in wealth. May your life turn toward wisdom. Thank you for listening. Now, dear friends, we will continue, because balance is not only a beautiful idea, it is a daily art. And daily art requires daily reminders. So let us enter the teaching again from another door. Sometimes the extreme is not obvious. Sometimes the extreme is quiet. It is the mind that never rests. It is the heart that never feels safe. It is the inner voice that never says, "You are enough." It is the habit of always preparing for disaster. This is a hidden extreme, and it also creates reversal. When the mind is always preparing for disaster, it becomes disaster, because life becomes a prison of fear. So the Buddha taught us to practice trust, not blind trust in luck, trust in practice. Trust that you can return to the breath. Trust that you can choose non-hatred. Trust that you can live with dignity. Trust that you can take one step. Now, let us speak about fear, because fear is the engine of many extremes. Fear creates control. Fear creates perfectionism. Fear creates comparison. Fear creates greed. Fear creates hatred. Fear says, "If I do not push hard enough, I will lose." Fear says, "If I do not control others, I will be unsafe." Fear says, "If I do not get more, I will be nothing." So the turning point often begins when you finally see your fear. Not to shame it, to understand it. In Buddhism, fear is not an enemy. Fear is a signal. It says, the mind is clinging. So when fear appears, ask gently, what am I clinging to? What am I afraid to lose? What am I trying to control? Then breathe, then soften, then choose. This is reversal. Now a story. A young woman feared being alone, so she stayed in unhealthy relationships. She accepted disrespect. She accepted lies. She told herself, it is better than being alone. Her fear pushed her into an extreme of self-betrayal. One day, she reached the bottom. She felt empty. She felt tired. She felt ashamed. In that darkness, she finally became honest. She said, I cannot live like this. That honesty was her turning point. She practiced boundaries. She practiced self-respect. She practiced meditation. She practiced healing. She became alone for a while, but she was not lonely. because she had herself. Later, she found healthier love, not because fate rewarded her, but because she turned. She changed conditions. This is Dharma. Now let us talk about the rule of not hating again, but with a deeper focus on inner enemies. Many people do not hate others as much as they hate themselves. They carry inner hatred, inner contempt, inner cruelty. They call themselves weak. They call themselves late. They call themselves failures. This inner hatred is an extreme, and when it reaches an extreme, it creates reversal in the form of collapse, depression, anxiety, burnout. So the Buddha's compassion must also be turned inward. The Buddha did not teach that you must love yourself in a fake way. He taught that you must stop harming yourself. Stop harming yourself with harsh words. Stop harming yourself with endless comparison. Stop harming yourself with impossible standards. Treat yourself like a person you care about. This is not indulgence. This is wisdom. Now, let us add a gentle practice. When the inner critic speaks, do not fight it. Do not believe it. Observe it. Say, "A harsh thought is here," and return to the breath. Then answer with kindness. "I am learning. I can take one step. I am not alone." This practice softens the mind, and a softened mind can turn. Now, we will explore another turning point. The turning point from obsession with results to trust in process. Modern life trains people to want quick results, quick success, quick healing, quick money, quick peace. But the Buddha's path is slow and deep, like roots. So practice trusting the process. Do the right thing today. Plant one seed today, and then let time and conditions work. This is patience. Now we will add a story about process. A man learned meditation and wanted awakening quickly. He sat for hours. He forced his breath. He judged himself. He became frustrated. A teacher said, "You are meditating like you are chasing a thief." Meditation is not chasing. Meditation is returning. So the man changed. He sat gently. He returned to the breath again and again. After months, he noticed his anger was less. His fear was less. His speech was softer. He realized awakening is not a fireworks moment. It is a gradual turning. This is true. Now let us speak about the phrase, "Do not take all blessing, leave some for tomorrow." In Buddhism, this can be understood as moderation and gratitude. When you enjoy something, enjoy it fully with awareness, but do not demand more and more, because greed destroys joy. A small meal enjoyed with gratitude is happiness. A large feast eaten with craving is suffering. So practice enjoyment without addiction. Now a story. A man loved luxury. He upgraded constantly. He chased new things. He was never satisfied. He thought he needed more to be happy. Then he lost money. He lost status. He lost his lifestyle. At first, he panicked. But then he learned simplicity. He learned to enjoy tea, to enjoy walking, to enjoy silence. He realized happiness was not the object. It was the mind. His life turned, not because he regained luxury, but because he gained wisdom. Now, let us speak about balance in the body. The body is the foundation of practice. If the body is exhausted, the mind becomes extreme. If the body is intoxicated, the mind becomes extreme. If the body is neglected, the mind becomes extreme. So care for the body with moderation. Eat enough, sleep enough, move enough, rest enough. This is not selfish, this is Dharma. Because when your body is stable, your mind is easier to train. Now, we will add another story. A monk was practicing hard and became sick. He felt guilty for resting. The Buddha said, "If you neglect the body, you cannot practice. Care for the body as a tool for awakening." The monk rested. He recovered. He practiced with balance. This is a Buddha teaching. Now, let us return to the idea of the wheel again. The wheel turns in your life, and it also turns in society. Economies rise and fall. Trends rise and fall. Opinions rise and fall. So do not build your peace on the world's noise. Build your peace on your inner practice. If you build your peace on the internet, you will suffer. Because the internet is always extreme. So protect your mind. Choose what you consume. Choose what you repeat. This is a modern form of sense restraint. Now we will speak about the ultimate balance, the balance between effort and surrender. Effort is planting causes. Surrender is releasing control of outcomes. Many people only do effort, and they become tense. Many people only do surrender, and they become lazy. The middle way is both. Work, then release. Practice, then let go. Speak, then be silent. Act, then accept. This is harmony. Now, let us close with one more story that ties everything together. An old man planted a tree. A young man laughed and said, "Why plant a tree? You will not live to eat the fruit." The old man smiled and said, "I am eating fruit today because someone planted before I was born." This is karma. This is the long view. This is balance. Do not chase immediate reward. Plant good causes. Leave something for tomorrow. Leave something for others. This is how destiny turns, slowly and beautifully. May your life be guided by wisdom. May your heart be steady in every season. May you live the middle way. Thank you for staying with this long practice.